All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Roy Jones Jr., Canelo Alvarez, and Jermall Charlo, and the advice Roy Jones Jr. gave to Canelo. Let's do that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We are going to be back on this Canelo Alvarez conversation because Roy Jones Jr. last night in an interview told Canelo Alvarez what he needs to do now that his cherry pick went wrong. And so we're going to do that in this video. But before I talk about that, welcome back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching the videos. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. We have a very, very good boxing community around over here. We do videos every day, live streams every day. So there's always an opportunity to talk about boxing. All right. So as we know, Canelo Alvarez got whooped by DMITRY Bivol in a fight at 175 pounds for DMITRY Bivol's WBA title at that weight class. It has been a couple weeks from the fight, and so people are still kind of processing it, and we're having some interviews that took place with Roy Jones Jr. yesterday and the day before, where they talked about the fight. And in this particular one that I'm talking about is that he gives Canelo Alvarez and tells Canelo Alvarez what he needs to do next, which is what I was saying Canelo Alvarez needed to do before he fought Bivol, and what I hope at this point in time, Canelo Alvarez will not try to avoid. There is somebody that came by my chat. I can't remember the name of the person that gave me the quote, or where the quote was originated. However, there's a phrase that a quote that is out there that says, what do you say? You meet your destiny on the road that you take to avoid it. You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it. So that is what is happening with Canelo Alvarez and what Roy Jones Jr. is advising him to do, which is not to fight DMITRY Bivol in a rematch, to go back down to your weight class and fight Jermall Charlo or David Benavidez or Demetrius Andrade. Go down and fight the guys that are your size in your weight class. Stop chasing the dream and trying to cherry pick guys up at higher weight classes that look like they're good matches for you, but specifically to leave DMITRY Bivol alone, because DMITRY Bivol is going to beat you again in the next fight. You went up there, you challenged him, you dared to be great. You did not succeed in being great in that instance. Come on back down and fight against the guys in your division. Now, when the person that was giving the interview asked Roy Jones Jr., well, what would you do, Roy, if you had moved up to 175, if you had moved up a weight class and had lost to John Ruiz when you fought John Ruiz for the heavyweight championship? He said, if I moved up and fought John Ruiz and I would have lost, I would have taken my behind back down there where I came from and fought guys in my own weight class. He said, if John Ruiz had beaten me, John Ruiz's attitude probably would have been, look, you came up there, you challenged me, you lost, now go back down where you belong. I gave you my shot, I gave you a shot, and that's all that I owe you. And that is exactly what he's telling Canelo Alvarez to do with DMITRY Bivol. Stay away from there, because all you're going to do is get beat again. Now, for people, because there are people in my comment section said, oh man, Roy Jones Jr. changed his tune after the fight took place. And that is not accurate. He said, no, what I said in the podcast, if you listen to me, we all said that Canelo Alvarez would lose to DMITRY Bivol, because he cannot box with DMITRY Bivol on the outside. And as long as DMITRY Bivol fights him on the outside like that, he's not going to be able to beat him. He's a very, very good fighter. He's a bigger guy. They said all those guys on our podcast knew what was going to happen to Canelo. Now, obviously, the thing about, Canelo was whether or not somebody was going to get a decision over Canelo or not, right? And in this particular instance with Bivol, he almost didn't get that decision because he won 10 rounds out of 12, in my opinion, and then but only won the fight by a round. Now, if Canelo Alvarez says, hey, man, I lost, I want to run that back, and goes at him again, he's going to lose again, more than likely. And this time he may lose worse because DMITRY Bivol may actually crank it up on Canelo Alvarez more. And I really don't see what Canelo Alvarez is going to do to DMITRY Bivol that's different. Canelo has been fighting the same way for the last several fights in that kind of plod after you style, hitting you on the arms, waiting for you, waiting for that one big shot knockout. And DMITRY Bivol now knows his game plan, knows that the dude's defense is, and honestly, also, Canelo Alvarez does not look as sharp as he did in lower weight classes. Now, I say that the reason that is because, he's been, God, what do you say? Because he's got 60 fights and, he's been in a lot, in a lot of training camps. He's a 16, 17 year professional. And at a certain point in time, it's just the wear and tear on your body, get you there. And some people peak earlier than other people, no matter what. But when you have all of that stuff, all of that wear and tear and all those fights on you, you can slip off a little bit, man. Canelo Alvarez needs to do what is, if he's going to continue to fight, man, all of these extra excursions trying to prove, what do you call it, man? Trying to always do things that are unusual or historic, man, it's just not going to work, man. He's not going to beat Beterbiev. He's not going to beat Gilberto Ramirez. If he's not going to stay in that weight class, why be there? He's still an excellent fighter and still should have the ability to compete well with, if not beat, all of the guys in his division. And that's what Roy Jones Jr. is telling him to do, man. Stop running from your destiny. Because you run right, stop trying to avoid that particular fight. Stop avoiding those fights because that's what he's been doing. And there's no other way to describe that. At 154 pounds, he didn't fight Charlo and Demetrius Andrade. At 160, he didn't fight Charlo and Demetrius Andrade. At 168, he didn't fight Andrade. He hasn't fought David Benavidez. Those are the guys that are going to give him the most competition and that are around the same size as him, right? Same age as him, legitimate competitive fights that Canelo Alvarez has been skipping over, trying to do gimmicks. And another thing Roy Jones Jr. said was he talked about how, when you moved up, when Canelo moved up to fight Sergey Kovalev, good deal. You moved up to fight Sergey Kovalev. You did it. You proved that you could fight at that weight class. Since you did it once, what you doing it again for, right? If you're trying to do something unique. I like what Roy Jones Jr. has to say, and I like the fact that he mentioned Jermall Charlo, because I'm telling you, those are competitive fights in the marketing ploy that has been the marketing department or whatever it is that's been around Canelo Alvarez has been trying to sell this idea that nobody around him can compete with him. So he's forced into these other higher weight classes to even define competition. Well, you ran up into there. You wound up that you didn't handle that competition. Now come back on down there and fight these other guys, because there ain't make no sense for you to move up there and fight guys you can't beat when you have plenty of guys that you may be able to beat or are good competitive fights for the fight fans in the weight division you are. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.